Welcome to a presentation on possible PhD research topics. The context of this is I myself are in the machine learning optimization group. My name is Richard Neville, and what we're going to look at here is typical projects that I would supervise. So these projects will be in the domain of computational intelligence, maybe first and second, maybe even third generation computational intelligence. So those type of regimes will look at artificial intelligence with focuses on artificial neural networks and evolutionary computing, and then the combination of these, which is either called hybrid or portfolio techniques. So let's look at what we're going to talk about here. The first issue is, what are the domains of research that I can support you in if you're one of my students? The next is the typical types of projects that I'll supervise, and then we'll break these down into based on my research and based on the student's research, and I will support him because the domains I will support him in are the domains that I have a background in. So I'll tell you a bit more about those in a minute. The next thing is we'll talk about and show you a real-time video of a hybrid evolutionary computing algorithm, or maybe just part of it evolving over time, just to show you one of the research threads that I'm supervising at the moment. And then we'll finish with some references. So at the present time, the domain of research I'm looking into is, one of them is artificial neural networks, which in itself has a broad spectrum of possible research areas. And the other area is evolutionary computing. And then the offshoot of these two is neuroevolutionary computing. So in this area, we've applied evolutionary computing to complex systems, and you can look at those papers here if you want. Lately, though, we've been looking at evolutionary computing and local gradients, more correctly termed hybrid systems or portfolio techniques. Whereas in the neuroevolutionary domain, we've looked at particularly the role of permutation and the permutation problem with respect to evolutionary computing. And then in a PhD thesis, a very good PhD thesis in the last chapter, the student has evolved a role for redundancy in neural space. And this itself is ripe for new projects where it hasn't been pushed to the forefront of research and moved forward enough. So it's a very good subject to look at if you want to. So the other area that my research is based on, because this is one of the areas that I can support you in, is my past research. The most recent one, the latest if you like, is symmetry. Done a number of investigations in that. One of the hypotheses I've investigated with a student is patterns can be classified by their symmetry features, and that is indeed the case. And then we've also, prior to this, and prior to the student starting work on this, we looked at providing artificial neural networks with higher order abilities enabling higher order generalization. And that means without extra training on a training set, you can enable it to recognize reflections and scalings of those input vectors. And if you want to see more of the spread of scope of the different research I do in these two areas, you can go and look at this. Now, moving on, these projects are based on supporting the research student, but supporting them with my background knowledge, and it's developing their own research threads. One of them at present is hybrid optimization algorithms, and the other has been neuroevolution. So let's look at hybrid optimization. The hypothesis we're investigating here is that hybrid global and local search techniques provide a methodology for searching state space efficiently. And the other one we've looked at in the past is neuroevolution. We've looked at a few investigations under a few hypotheses that we've been driving towards. So one of them is the permutation problem. Is it overemphasized? The other one we looked at is the significance of this problem. And then finally, we tried to, or Stefan tried to, quantify the severity of this problem. And his future work led on to that previous state space reduction that you saw on the previous slide, which would be a very good issue to research. Now let's look at a real-time video. And what will it depict? Well, we're going to show you a surface which is actually a dynamic problem which has about 10 peaks on it which move around in time, and we have to, and the temperature scale of this blue surface will show you the peak of the surface. The lower values are blue. So the pool itself that will be used to evolve a solution, there's 20 chromosomes in the pool, and the population will then evolve. And what it actually is trying to perform is a tracking of the global maximum peak. And it does this, and you'll see it switch when it's got a number of the chromosomes have converged to a particular fitness, and actually the diversity has crashed. And it will repartition then the state space and re-provide a diverse population to restart searching the state space. And what it's actually doing, so this is the problem space marked in blue and then coloured as the maximum, changes colour to a maximum here. These points here are the present pool's best fitness function so far and its actual true. So let's explain a bit more about the problem. The problem is a dynamic problem where these peaks are set for a particular time period at this particular height. So let's say that after another time period they will actually change, and this system will then have to find the next peak in this set of peaks that move about over a certain time period. So let's just see what happens when I leave this to evolve, and then I'll explain what Hussein means, which is my PhD student, by search space partitioning, which is stated up here. So let's leave it running for a second. Now I'm going to stop now, because what happened here is Hussein is telling you that one, the best solution so far, one of the pool solutions, has nearly achieved a very good solution, considering this is the true peak here, and it's nearly met that requirement. Now the other thing, and what state space partitioning does, is it partitions state space and then allocates some of the search items in the pool, which are these crosses, which are solutions, across the rest of the search space. So let's say that again. After a while, as we saw before, the population, 20 possible solutions, will converge to the possible peak value. Then what Hussein cleverly does is he repopulates the search space, taking a percentage of the elite values and keeping those, and then repopulating the rest of the state space and partitioning it, hopefully to evenly distribute the other points in the population pool across the search space. So let's just leave it to evolve a little bit longer and see what it does, and you'll see that it'll converge. This is maximizing diversity, by the way. And as you can see, what's happening slowly is these points are converging slowly towards the optimum value. Now I'm going to leave it running now, because in a minute a new peak will appear, and this one will now not be the maximum. Now we've stopped, so I'll stop it a minute, and you can see what's happened here is this point is now degraded to a minimum, and another maximum has appeared. So this is the dynamic problem we're trying to solve. So I'll stop there and say thank you very much for listening. Finish by just saying, if you want to look at some more references, you can find them on that URL I showed you on the previous slide, and there's quite a lot of reference you can scan to see what sort of research I can support you in. Thank you very much for listening.